Thanks everybody again for joining us. This is Isaiah Anderson with the San Joaquin Council of Governments. Thanks everybody for joining us again today for this webinar. We're excited to introduce to you the new San Joaquin County or SJC Data Compass, which is a newly launched census data website designed to make navigating and using data easier and more accessible for everybody. As the region's designated Census Data Center, or CDC by the state, San Joaquin Council of Governments plays a key role in helping government agencies, businesses, nonprofits, and community members like yourselves make informed decisions. The CDC, Census Data Center, provides timely and reliable data to support planning, analysis, and everyday decision-making. SJC Data Compass is a powerful new tool built to bring all your census-related data needs into one convenient, easy-to-use platform. So whether you're researching demographics, housing, or economic trends, this site was developed to help you find what you need quickly and clearly. So let's dive in and show you how it works. I'll pass it over to Thomas Pogue, UOP.
Thanks very much, Isaiah. Oh, not too far there. 1 second. So wanted to orient you a little bit to what we've done with this and what it is that we're trying to do, working in partnership with SJCOG on the Census Data Center information. We're building a broad inventory of information for a variety of different uses and applications in the community, and building on the partnership that we've had with SJCOG here at the CBPR for many years, looking at annual indicator work as well as indicators that have been hosted previously on the SJCOG website over the years, and really trying to, as Isaiah was mentioning, give an interactive website that allows people to understand important trends with data, as well as data points for the county, but also its position relative to the state and the rest of the nation. And let residents, policy advocates, planners, regional decision makers quickly and easily access reliable, actionable information. We're very excited to have this launch with you all today. It's not the end of this process, though. We understand that some of the indicators are maybe missing, and key indicators for some community members or policymakers aren't available. And we are here in partnership with SJCOG to continue to update and evolve this website to reflect that information needed. And while of course the census is the backbone of our data that we're hosting here, we're also looking at other data sets that are reliable and vetted that are maintained that we can host. So there's a central point of access for community members to do that. And so I wanted to mention this morning or this afternoon to you now that we would appreciate, as you're going through this, receiving any comments on the website today or in the future. The email address to send those comments to is cbpr@pacific.edu, and we monitor that and work with the team to make sure that those are incorporated and reflected in the website moving forward. Also wanted to highlight this afternoon the great job and an important job that was done in developing this website as an applied learning opportunity for graduate students in the business analytics and computer science programs at University of the Pacific. And under the supervision of the CBPR staff in particular, Stephen McCurry, who's led and coordinated all the great work that they've done. It was a big team that pulled this website together, and very, very appreciative of the great work that everyone did in terms of gathering and compiling the data and hosting it on the website and designing the website, as a matter of fact. But as I said, we're not done. We're going to be continuing to evolve the website and adding in increased automation of indicators where we can do that reliably so that as soon as new data is released, it'll be updated. But we're ready to sort of jump in with you all today and share the resource that's been created here at the San Joaquin Data Compass. So with that, I'm going to try something new, which, as I said to Isaiah and Edith earlier, it's always a little bit odd to do such a thing on a live recording, but I'm going to try to share my screen and keep myself on the screen. And if it's too weird, just tell me and I'm happy to jump off. As we're going through, feel free to ask questions, preferably in the chat, and Isaiah will stop me along the way. But if it's something pressing, I'm obviously happy to pause and let you all and discuss it. So as we walk through this, the point of today's presentation is to sort of walk you through what is the San Joaquin Data Compass in terms of its layout, functionality, and also to highlight some of the interesting data points. There's too many to go through each of the indicators, but where a few have jumped out at me, I wanted to share those with you in this webinar this afternoon. As you can see here on the landing page, again, the website is sjcdata.org, and that's the Data Compass landing page. Up here in the left brings you back to this home page. Across the top, there are drop-down menus to access each of the 4 themes that the data indicators are organized upon. And on the home page, you can also access those themes and the sub-indicators associated with them with descriptions of each. And down at the bottom, there's an About page, which tells you a little bit about the Data Compass, as well as obviously information about SJCOG. And if you come into the Data Compass via the SJCOG website and you want to get out, you can always return just by clicking on the SJCOG icon, and that'll take you back over to their website. So across the 4 themes, we have a host of sub-indicators, as I mentioned. In the economy theme, we have 9 sub-indicators: jobs and employment, innovation ecosystem, financial ecosystem, income, agriculture, transportation and warehousing, commercial and industrial infrastructure, inflation and prices, and value-added output. In the social dynamics category, we have 8 sub-indicators: demography, migration, health, poverty and basic needs, inequality, social protection, education, and household infrastructure. In the environment theme, we have details about cultural engagement, security and safety, the environment, and social capital. And finally, in the transportation, being SJCOG does a lot of this work, we have information about the commute and transit activities of the county, as well as the transportation infrastructure and some indicators on that. What I'd like to then show you is looking at these indicators in particular. We'll jump in here to what is available on the pages, and in each of the themes, each of the sub-themes. So under economy, this is the jobs and employment page, and there are some key stats in each of the blocks across the top, as well as sort of a discussion about the sub indicator. And on the indicators themselves, you'll see there's a description of what the data is showing us. This one is on employment, unemployment, and labor force. And I think it's quite cool that there's a set of available data on each of these. So if you wanted to look at what is San Joaquin County's labor force, you can select that. If you want to see what's the employment trend, you can select that. If you want to see what's the unemployment rate, you can look at the unemployment rate over time. The team has also designed it so if you want to download this graph, you can just simply select that and it'll bring up a chart which shows you the image up here. If you want to compare it to the state rate, you can select the location and that'll give you then the California unemployment rate for a comparison. And if you wanted to look at the underlying data, you can do that by clicking on the raw data option up here above the chart. And then you can either email it to share it, you can print it out, or you could download the data directly. Clicking on the button, it brings up an Excel spreadsheet with the underlying data that's available for you. And going through, you also, as you hover on the data points, you can see the specifics for each annual point, what the value is over time, and the source of where the data is coming from is also detailed on each of these. In this subsector, we've got employment by sector, looking at whatever sector the totals employment trends in comparison to California, United States, as well as comparative growth rates in terms of where job growth has come, employment by occupations in terms of the composition by job type. This is occupational. This is by sector, sorry, and this is by occupation and income in the jobs. And this differentiates, the lower paying jobs, annually averaging 40,000 or less, middle income wage jobs 40 to 70,000, and high income wage jobs over 70,000, and giving you the details of those as well. In the economy section, there is also details of the innovation ecosystem of the county, looking at information, including patents and patents per capita to sort of show the knowledge intensity of the economy, looking at those trends over time in terms of patents granted to San Joaquin County residents. And also in this, we have value added and a whole bunch of details around business startups. And this I find quite interesting in what is showing here is that as we look at this, we're seeing in the county, the startup intensity, sorry, down here, in terms of the number of new businesses per 10,000 residents. We see that in 2021, it was about 16.3. That is in comparison to the figure of about 25.2 in California and about 22.7 nationally in 2021, which shows again a key challenge which we know exists in the region in terms of San Joaquin County being about 35% lower in terms of startup intensity than the rest of the state, and about 28% lower than the rest of the country. There's also details around non-employer. These are self-employed and proprietors, and how they stack up. in terms of the percentage of establishments and the numbers of establishments in this. Another set of indicators that we have details on in here is the financial ecosystem in the county, tracking small business loans that have been issued, the amount of the loans and the number of loans by selecting over here. You can choose between those. We are tracking the farm loans in terms of the trends in farm loans across the county over time. The risk capital investment, which was compiled over a 10-year period, looking at what the trends and types of risk capital have been. And this is again the trend line over time with the risk capital. We are also looking in the compass about income and the structure of income in the county. What's been the median household income over time? What's our real per capita income over time? What are the median earnings by industry? And again, with comparisons in those median earnings to the rest of California and the U.S. Looking at compensation by sector in terms of what are the average wages paid in each sector of our economy and how those have been changing over time. That's all included in that section. We also have key indicators around the commercial and industrial infrastructure, looking at office and industrial rental rates, vacancy rates in the county. Further, we have details around inflation and prices. And what we've done for this is we've looked at the national, obviously, consumer price index, but we know that there are often important regional differences. And so we focused in on this page, although we have the national CPU, which is available on there. We've tried to highlight the regional consumer price index as a reference point for somebody that wants a better data point for Northern California. And it's based on the San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward combined statistical area, which since 2012 has included San Joaquin County. It also includes Merced County and Stanislaus County since I think about the mid-2010s. They were also added to the combined statistical area. And it's kind of interesting when you look at at the differences between the two indices, which is highlighted here in the description. But if you look at the time period from 2015 to 2020 to December 2024, which is the last data point that we have for the Northern California consumer price index, the difference between the nation and the region are relatively small, with a 36.5% change in prices over that time for the Northern California index and 35% nationally. But looking at it in terms of its components, from February 2015 to February 2020, the Northern California price index increased by 17.6% compared to the national index increasing by 10.2%. But when you look at it in the post-COVID period from 2020 to December 2024, the Northern California price index increased by 16.1%. So it was actually a little bit smaller than the previous period in terms of the price increase growth, compared to the US, which had a 22.5% increase. And again, haven't dug into this, but believe that's related to housing price and some of the other cost of living issues here that have been relatively slow to other parts of the country. Looking at other price details that are available here, we have through the Bureau of Labor Statistics regional gasoline prices over time, looking at how they have changed over time for Northern California consumers in price per gallon. Also electricity prices over time in terms of cost per kilowatt hour, and the utility price in terms of price of gas. There's a lot of interesting stories to be told in here, but that's not our focus of conversation today. We also, in the economy subtheme, have details about where our GDP trend has been going over time. What is the value add or GDP of the county? What what does it look like in terms of the growth trend compared to the state of California and the US as well? Details, if of interest in terms of what sectors are creating the largest contribution to GDP, are also available along with the raw data, which can be filtered by sectors to look at it over time or by years, however you would like. You can type in a year and it will filter out to just give you that year's data in here. The second area that we look at is social dynamics. One of the key areas in that is the county's demographics, looking at the age structure of the population distribution in the county, as well as the latest forecast that we've developed in partnership with SJCOG. This data is what is in the development of the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy currently, the 2025 to 2050 forecast. Details around the median age. Those of you that were on the forecast we had earlier this year with the state demographer and Department of Finance economic chief know that there's a lot of really substantial change coming in terms of the slowing population growth and aging population. And those details are also reported in here, looking at the current composition by race and language spoken at home, in addition to the overall trends. Migration is an important issue, looking at how the change in domestic migration, other parts of California and the rest of the country, and international migrants have changed over time, are included in this set of indicators. We have several indicators around what poverty has been looking like over time, looking at details of those trends by race and ethnicity, looking at impacts or prevalence of poverty by age groups, as well as details using the MIT living wage calculator for what does it look like to have a living wage in San Joaquin County. This is the 2024 data from the MIT living wage calculator is posted here. Another important social dynamic is inequality. And this measure looks at how the top 75th percent of income earners earnings compare to the lower 25th percentile. And as this number here shows you, they're almost twice the earnings in terms of the same percentage of people, but how much more do they earn than the top. Another indicator of inequality is called the Gini index, which is on a scale from 0 to 1, where 1 means that a single household has all the wealth in a region, and 0 means every household has an equal amount of wealth. San Joaquin County is slightly less than the US and California indicating that it has a slightly lower level of inequality than other parts of the state and nation, but still relatively high at a 0.44 compared to other countries and regions where there's a more equal distribution of wealth. Again, looking at poverty trends, ratios of income by race, looking at the inequality by of income by gender, by age, and by race and ethnicity are all measures that are included here in this section of the Data Compass. The next section looks at education levels, where trends in terms of the county's education performance have been occurring. What is our enrollment in the early childhood education look like? Again, knowing the importance of that early childhood education for cognitive and social development. We have that data there. Looking at how our educational institutions have performed, we give some indicators on third grade reading proficiency, third grade math proficiency, 11th grade math proficiency, and then details around the graduation rate, looking at its trend over time and its comparison to the rest of the state, what that looks like, where those graduation rates vary by race and ethnicity, and some data on the college readiness of graduates. What percentage of our high school graduates have met the requirements for the UC CSU entrance? In San Joaquin County, we see that that's about 33% less than the state as a whole. The state's at about 52%, and San Joaquin County in 2022, 2023 was about 35%. And also some data around the median in earnings by education level, as well as data around enrollment in our higher education institutions here in San Joaquin County, Delta College and CSU Stockton from the Stanislaus State Campus also. Other indicators in this section include household infrastructure, looking at household characteristics. What are the types of amenities that different households have in the county? This is all based on the American Community Survey. You know, what percentage of households have access to computers, internet access? How does that compare? Again, is all available here too. How are their houses warmed? How does that different to other parts of the state and the nation? It's also included in that. In terms of the housing creation, we have some indicators here in terms of what building permits have looked like over time. Again, many of you still remember very well the housing build up and the activities going on there in the county and the impacts that they had. Also details around the structure of renter-owned, renter or owner-occupied housing are included in that. A lot of details around the healthcare structure of the county, looking at the frequency of care providers. This is primary care providers, and in comparison, looking at California and the US in terms of the number of residents per primary care provider. So in this, the lower the number, the better, meaning that there are more primary care providers per resident, where we see relative stagnation, if not maybe a little bit of upward trend in San Joaquin County. The rest of California is demonstrating a much clearer downward trend. What that means is that San Joaquin County is about 39% higher in terms of the number of residents per primary care provider than the rest of the state, and about 29% higher than the rest of the country in terms of the number of residents per primary care provider. But in here, we also have mental health care providers. We have dentists per capita, as well as other primary care, which are medical professionals like physician assistants and nursing practitioners are included in that. Then a host of other indicators around the health of the county, excessive drinking over time, the percentage of adults that are smoking, trends in life expectancy is also reported in here, looking at the difference in that life expectancy by gender, by race, looking at trends in terms of the county's infant mortality, again, with comparisons to the rest of the state and the nation, and healthcare insurance, looking at healthcare and vaccination data for the county as well is included here. And the final category in this area is social protection. This is looking at what does the social welfare net look like in the county. We report details on free and reduced lunches and school meals, the percentage of the population receiving public assistance, the percentage of the population on Medi-Cal by age and gender, the percentage of the rate of children participating in the CalWorks program, as well as details around the recipients of the CalFresh and SNAP food program, and the WIC food voucher participants in the county. The third set of indicators is around the place on environment, looking at cultural engagement. We have the National SMU Arts Vibrancy Index, details around the county travel and tourism spending, looking at the industry segments in terms of where that travel and tourism spending is impacting in our county's economy, as well as details of how that compares to the rest of the state. The arts and entertainment income by industry is detailed in terms of performing arts, museums, recreation industries. The details of that are presented there. Another important issue in terms of how is the community working together is social capital. This looks at voter participation, turnout for elections, as well as social capital. And social capital, we're using data from the Harvard project called the Equity Atlas. And it looks at, in particular, this is the Social Capital Index from the Opportunity Insights program there. And this looks at our economic connectedness, ranking our connectedness, our cohesiveness, and our civic engagement by these different indicators, which are explained in the paragraphs here. For the most part, these lower numbers show that we're relatively low, meaning that we're relatively poor performing compared to other parts of the country in terms of our social capital. A final set of indicators in this subsector is around the environment, where we have details around trends in urban built-up land in the county, looking at farmland and urbanization trends in terms of the amount of prime farmland in the county, as well as air quality using the measure of unhealthy air zone as a measure for that. And on all these the data is available for download directly just by clicking on this data download button. You can pick any of the indicators without having to go across and click on download. You can just select the data set, and the raw data will be downloaded onto your computer. And the final subsection of data is around the commute and transit and transportation infrastructure. We track the daily miles traveled, the ridership in terms of where trends are going with our public transportation providers. What does their ridership look like? Again, noticing that there's been significant impacts of the pandemic on many of them. The means of transportation over time, the place of work in terms of whether they work in county or out of county, the trends in commute time. Here again, we know that we have a lot of long distance commuters in the county. This is showing us that San Joaquin County is 20% higher in its average commute time than the rest of California, and 28% higher than the rest of the US in terms of the average commute time. Details around these different lengths of commute, including this one, which is over 60 minutes, getting into our super commuters, where we have some of the highest in the country in terms of the frequency of super commuters, as well as details around the availability of transport of vehicles in households. And the final set of indicators here is the transportation infrastructure. We've compiled details from the National Highway System around the condition of bridges and roads in the county, what they're reported, as well as also tracking in this our alternative fuel infrastructure in the county. And this is another one that's quite interesting, where we see that from 2014 to 2019, there was a 125% increase, which was substantial. But really looking at from 2020 to 2025, that increasing by over 300%. Again, showing the significant investments that have been made recently across the county in our alternative vehicle infrastructure. And that's a lot of me talking and showing you around the website, which I hope has helped some. But I'll pause there and see if there's any questions, since I just threw all that at you. Hope that you all take a minute or more to explore the Data Compass, and really looking forward to building this out and developing it further with you all.
Are we opening for questions?
Yes, Betty, I'd be happy to open for questions.
Hi, Dr. Pogue. Hey, thanks this is awesome. Thank you for doing this. But just real quick question, how often because I'm sure the information could change daily. How often is it updated, and who's in control of monitoring the website to make sure it's current information?
So we are ensuring that each quarter, one of the indicators is completely updated. So every year it will be completely refreshed. As I said, what we're trying to work on right now is where the data is available through what's called an API, which gives you a live update to the data source. We're going to link the indicators to the actual feed so that it'll be real time. And that's the next step with this project, is to put that API integration, and we'll then be indicating those indicators that are being updated in real time with that feed directly from the source.
Thank you. And so you'll let us know when.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have an announcement. We'll just posted on the website as those connections get up, but we will make an announcement when we have like by the end of the next quarter. We'll let you know which ones we have connected up and how and so that is updated, because I know these things are great, but if they're not being updated and maintained, and that's why we really appreciate this partnership with SJCOG, because it's allowing us to get the Pacific data analytics and computer science students of real world experience, continuing to update and develop the website. So part of the design is to make sure that it's not just a one and done. It's a partnership moving forward to keep this data current and relevant for the community.
Thank you.
Yeah. Russell, appreciate your question, and I'm working on it, and I will prioritize that with our interns to help me get that up and running. At the moment, not, but we will communicate that. That's a great idea. We'll work on that listserv to make sure that you know when they're sent out. Any other questions or comments? Again, would want to hear from you as you have a chance to look around, what you think can be improved. If there are any issues that you see with the data, we've done our best through multiple iterations so far and a soft launch to catch those, but inevitably there will be some. We are committed to improving with the help of you all and of course SJCOG. Any other questions? I hope you enjoy exploring the Data Compass. We hope it does help guide you around the multitudes of data that are important to the community and to your needs. And again, really appreciate you joining us today to share the launch of this new tool with you all.
Thank you, Dr. Pogue, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you, Dr. Pogue.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
All right, goodbye.
Bye, everyone.